Hi Adams, it's Ms. Kovarik and we are on episode 6 of our Eureka unit. Today we're going to look at different perspectives and we're going to talk about documentation. So here is your vocab. Abscesses are inflammations caused by bacteria. An antibiotic is a medicine that kills or stops the growth of diseased cells. Antiseptics are substances that prevent the growth of disease-causing microorganisms. Bacteriologist is a scientist who studies microscopic organisms. Boils are a painful skin condition. Contaminated means that something is harmful because it came in contact with something that's not clean. Cultures are growths of microorganisms. Digress means to get off the subject. Heed means pay attention to. And Petri dishes are shallow, circular, see-through dishes with flat lids, and they use these to culture microorganisms. Okay, so we have a note from George Washington Carver.
Hello, seedlings. I use inventions in my work, but I also work a lot with vegetables and legumes. The peanut is not a simple machine. Invention breeds invention is a great tool for inspiration. It's not the only one. Today, we're going to think about perspectives, looking at things carefully and looking at them from different angles.
Okay, so your task today is to think about things from different perspectives. So first we're going to think about eating. Think of all the different ways that we can get food into our mouths. So one example is we use a fork. So you're going to write down as many different ways as you can think of how we can get food into our mouth. One way is a fork. Think of more. Now think about traveling. Write down as many inventions as you can think of that help people travel. Do the same with math. As many inventions as you can think of that help us solve math problems. And the last one is recording information. So either recording someone's voice, recording writing down what someone is saying. So any ways that will keep track of what someone is saying. All the different ways that we can do that. Okay, so pick any material that is near you. So I've got hand sanitizer. I've got a water bottle. I've got my cell phone. Pick anything that is near you, a pencil, a paper, a notebook, a crayon. Write down the material you chose. Now describe the object using sight. So if I was talking about my coffee mug, I would say it is shaped like a cylinder. I would say it's clear. I would say it has a blue lid and straw. So using sight, what do you see? Now describe it using touch. So I would say it feels cold. It feels hard. It feels smooth. Describe it using smell. So I have coffee in my cup, so mine smells like coffee, so it smells good. Describe the sound. So if you hit it, what sound does it make? Does it make sound on its own? What is the object usually used for? And this is where you're going to be creative. Think about some other ways we could use this object. So for example, my coffee cup, I use it to drink coffee. However, I could also use this as a rolling pin because of its shape. So think of some creative ideas that you could use that object for besides what it's intended for. All right, go on to our skills lesson, and we have another note from Professor Carver.
Seedlings, you are nearly ready to be transformed into the wide world that is around you. But not without building again. This building challenge is more challenging. In your lab, you must create one invention and document how you did. The judge's office at Eureka is, well, it's starting to be a fire hazard. We get so involved in our inventing, we don't want to stand up and walk 2 feet to throw the many, many irritating memos we get from the network into the recycler. Please help.
So, like George Washington Carver just said in his note, we're going to be making an invention that the judges can use to throw out trash. So here's the requirements. The trash can is 2 feet away. the user is sitting down. You can use anything in the building material box. So we don't have these at home, obviously. Use any materials that we would be able to find in school or at home. You cannot just throw the trash, so you cannot just throw it into the garbage. And your invention should work 75% of the time. So, write the problem we're going to solve. If you forgot, go back and read his note. List the materials you're going to use. How does the invention work? And then write 3 sentences explaining how you would make it if you could. All right, so again, these are the requirements. If a trash can is 2 feet away from you, you cannot just throw the garbage out. You're going to come up with some type of invention that would allow you to throw the garbage away from a distance. All right, be creative. Okay, the last part is we have 2 more readings of our inventors. So our first one is Bette Neswith Graham. Howdy, guys and gals, and thank you all so much for the chance to appear on the program. I'm afraid my invention may seem a little old-fashioned today, but in the 1950s, it was revolutionary. Back then, I was working as a secretary at a big bank in Dallas, Texas, which also happens to be the town where I was born on March 23rd, 1924. Of course, we didn't have computers and printers in those days. All our letters and business documents were typed on typewriters. You've seen typewriters, haven't you? Oh gosh, maybe not. You're all so young. Anyway, we had the darndest time if we typed even one wrong letter. A pencil eraser does not work on typewriter ink. No eraser does. Believe me, I tried lots of them. The upshot was, if you made a mistake, you had to go back to the beginning and start again. Can you imagine? Then one December, I was painting holiday snowflakes on the bank windows when suddenly it hit me. Painters don't erase their mistakes, they paint over them. Maybe the same idea would work for fixing typing mistakes. So I mixed up a batch of quick-drying paint that matched the color of the bank's typing paper and put it in a bottle with a tiny little paintbrush. The next day at work, when I made a mistake in my typing, I just painted over the wrong letters and then typed the correct ones over the paint after it dried. Soon, all the secretaries at the bank were asking for my magical mistake out. A chemistry teacher at the local high school helped me improve the formula, and all of a sudden I was selling my invention, now called liquid paper, all over the world. I ran my own company, bringing a rarely seen feminine touch to the business world. For instance, it was almost unheard of in the 1970s for a company to have a child care center as mine did. I was unstoppable and one of the most successful women in business. My company sold nearly $50 million in 1979. So you little pups should really keep your eyes open for problems to solve and keep your minds open for all kinds of different ways to solve them. You never know what you'll think up. Okay, so you're going to write the inventor's name from that reading. When and where was she born? Describe a challenge that she faced, and then one interesting fact about her. And our last inventor today is Alexander Fleming. Hello and good day to you, student inventors. It's a pleasure to be on the show. My name is Alexander Fleming, well, Sir Alexander Fleming, as of the day I was knighted by King George VI in 1944. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I was born on August 6, 1881, on a farm in Ayrshire, Scotland. But I wasn't meant for farm life. I moved to London as a young man and became a bacteriologist, a scientist who conducted experiments on bacteria. During World War I served as a captain in the Royal Army Medical Corps. There, I saw too many men die needlessly in field hospitals where I suspected the antiseptics used to clean their infected wounds were more dangerous than the wounds themselves. But no one heeded my warnings, and the antiseptics continued to be used. It was, to say the least, a frustrating time for me. After the war, I was busy at St. Mary's Hospital in London, studying a particularly nasty bacterium called Staphylococcus that causes boil, abscesses, and sore throats. I definitely said that wrong, but that's okay. I had a very good reputation amongst those studying bacteria, though I was known to be a little sloppy, very sloppy, in my lab. I admit it, being orderly isn't my strength. You can imagine the trouble this got me into growing up on the farm. I mean, do you know how angry a cow gets when you forget to milk her? But I digress. On September 3rd, 1928, I returned from a lengthy family holiday to find that I'd left a stack of petri dishes filled with live bacteria cultures sitting out on a bench. Needless to say, this is not where the cultures ought to be left, even for a night or two. Unsurprisingly, one of the cultures had become contaminated, invaded by a fungus, a kind of mold. But surprisingly, the fungus seemed to be preventing the bacteria from growing around it. This was curious, so I decided to grow the fungus, which I called penicillin, again, and realized that it successfully killed bacteria. This was great, but I still didn't comprehend the huge import of what I discovered. What can I say? We can't always see precisely what we have when we have it. After all, I tested penicillin for a number of years, but came to the conclusion that it couldn't survive long enough within the human body to fight infection successfully, and I moved on. Luckily, other scientists stuck with it, and by the end of World War II, penicillin was saving many soldiers' lives. And shortly thereafter, I became Sir Alexander Fleming and shared the Nobel Prize in Medicine. Penicillin was the first antibiotic, and it unquestionably changed the world. It is widely considered one of the most important inventions of the 20th century. The moral of the story? I think I'd put it something like this. One sometimes finds what one is not looking for. When I woke up just after dawn on that day, in September, I certainly did not plan to revolutionize all medicine by discovering the world's first antibiotic or bacteria killer. But I guess that was exactly what I did. Sorry, guys. All right, same 5 questions for that inventor, and that is it for today. Have a wonderful day. I will see you next time. Bye, Adams.